Hi there. Yesterday we did a video on racism and just addressed the whole aspect of racism from a biblical perspective. And the conclusion is this: God has made the one human race from one man, Adam. So we all have a common ancestor, and we do not then hold to racism as Christians. It's a non-issue by virtue of the fact that there is only one race, and that's the human race. And yet at the same time, we cannot deny that we see rampant racism within the world today. And I believe that that is a result of Darwinian evolution that has been promoted and so has elevated one supposed race above another. Now, we do not hold to Darwinian evolution, and the crazy reality is those who are promoting anti-racism, which are primarily the academic left and Hollywood, are insanely confused because they are the very ones who promote Darwinian evolution. So that's the crazy world we live in. Now, the big question right now is, do Black lives matter? Now, here's the simple answer. Every life matters to the born-again Christian. We do not put one life above another. But at the same time, if a black life is taken, then obviously that's the sensitive issue at the time, and we stand in solidarity with that individual that was murdered in terms of their family and even their community. But in the same way, if it was a white life that was tragically taken, we would take the same stand. And so we would never put one life above another life. Now, when we look at what happened in the US with George Floyd, and let's give the Black Lives Matter movement the benefit of the doubt, and let's say that they started with a peaceful protest. Well, it certainly has changed and is no longer peaceful. At the very time this is taking place in America, many other nations are using the opportunity to stir up resentment and anger and racism among its citizens. Here in South Africa, obviously our government jumped on the bandwagon and they start calling out the US for what took place. But yet at the same time, we've had during the lockdown many lives taken by our own security services, and nothing has been said about that. But right within our own community, we had in this last week a farm attack where a white farmer was hacked to death with a panga, and yet no one from the political arena has even said a single word regarding this brutal farm attack. And so when we look at the world, people are so angry, and it's so easy to be caught up in the anger and to become resentful, and then all these deep wounds open up again, and we kind of have maybe progressed a little in reconciling as a people of color, and then we take a whole bunch of steps back, and everyone's angry again. Now, as believers, we don't want to be involved in any of this. We don't want to be diverted from the calling that God's placed upon our lives. And to us, because every life matters, we treat every person the same. And our heart is for every person to hear the gospel, regardless of what color they are. And so, should we be getting behind Black Lives Matter movement? Definitely not. And we as an organization are almost exclusively involved in ministry to black people through the continent of Africa. That's what God has called us to. And so Black Lives Matter to us. That's why we're preaching the gospel. But in terms of getting behind a socialist movement like we've seen at the moment is only a diversion and a distraction for believers in Jesus Christ. When I look at the kind of rage and anger and resentment that is building up. And it's difficult not to get sucked into this and take a side and become angry toward the other side. But this is the world we live in. We're not going to be free of injustice, whatever kind. It's a big racial injustice movement at the moment. Give it a few weeks, it will blow over, and it will be some political thing that will happen, and then it will be a financial, and then it will be another war and a focus on maybe another virus or whatever going forward. There's always going to be something going on in the world we live in, because we live in a broken world. And so all lives matter to us, and we should be deeply concerned with the souls of men and women. And so when I look at what's currently going on, here's the diversion. We see people that have supposedly a great concern for black lives, but yet these same people are the very ones that are looting and burning down stores and shops owned by black people. And so this has got nothing to do with Black Lives Mattering. It's got to do with anarchy. It's got to do with people opportunistically using the riots to steal and to loot. Why, if you're concerned about a black life, would you burn down an institution, deface a monument, and steal a flat screen TV from a shop? It's got nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. And more disturbing is the video footage of Black Lives Matter people forcing white people, obviously out of fear, to get on their knees and to repent of their white privilege. This is blatant racism, and people are doing it out of fear. Governors, mayors of towns, fearful of what is happening, are getting on their knees in total surrender to blatant anarchists, nothing to do with people's lives, and are being forced to recant and to repent. People, this is total insanity. When we look at what's going on, there's always a bigger picture. And to me, it's the obvious. Since Trump came to power, the Dems have been absolutely hell-bent on trying to get him out of office from day one. And we look at the cesspool of iniquitous Dems running the United States, as Trump called them, the swamp that needed to be drained, which he has been doing, and that's why the growing resentment and anger towards him, because he has hindered their plans and their purposes for the nation of America to enslave and to bring down that great nation. And yet everything they've tried has failed. And now they are being exposed on every front. And so, of course, they're desperate, they're angry. And so these are the very people who now get behind these riots and use this opportunity to promote their agenda. The crazy thing is, there has been a growing number of black people who have got behind Trump, and his ratings among the black community in US have actually gone up in the 2 weeks since these riots have taken place. No sane thinking person looks at what's going on in these cities, the burning, the looting, the defacing, the criminality of it, and the calling for defunding and even removal of police. No sane thinking person would get behind that kind of agenda. It's insane what's going on. And so as the Church of Jesus Christ, we cannot support the Black Lives Matter movement. We support the lives of people. Justice needs to be served. And if we're going to bypass the justice system and resort to mob violence, where will that leave us as communities? Where there's no more law and order, What kind of a community are we going to live in? Who will we ultimately be in subjection to and controlled by? The academic left and Hollywood, through their military organization called Antifa, are the ones behind a lot of the rioting and the looting that is taking place. They are a terrorist organization. The academic left and Hollywood are probably the greatest breeding and training grounds for the leftist agenda, which is ultimately to bring down the great nation of the USA. And so I'm encouraging believers, do not get behind and do not support this movement, because it's got nothing to do with people's lives, especially black lives. You want to support black lives, then we need to support the justice system. We need to support law and order. We need to respect humanity, respect one another. We cannot disrespect people. We cannot loot people's businesses, of which many are black-owned businesses that have been suffering at this time. People are confused. All this reveals is that men and women are angry, they are bitter, they are resentful, they have no purpose, and so even this kind of anarchy gives them some kind of a purpose. They've had no voice, and so this affords them a voice. But this is not what we're called to support as the Church of Jesus Christ.